what water law does is both protect and manage conflicts, I guess, with regard to water. So quality regulation aside, which is fairly easy to explain. I mean, protecting, you could have all the water in the world, but if it's contaminated, there's no good use that can be made of it. So there's all the quality regulation. The challenge is in coming up with a mechanism that helps protect water quality on a vast landscape, right? Millions and millions, hundreds of millions of acres across the United States. And by and large, that's the most difficult problem facing water quality these days, is it's called non-point source pollution. That is pollution that results as a result of, or pollution that occurs as a result of runoff from agricultural lands. Our scarcity is geared primarily at agricultural production and supplemental irrigation requirements for particular crops in particular areas. But the law does deal with that. One way of looking at sort of the law of groundwater use is it allows folks to utilize the resource in times when rainfall isn't enough, that is, as a supplemental irrigation supply. That can, though, to the extent the supply isn't adequate to meet the demand, can result in ultimately exhaustion of the resource, I suppose. The law deals with that and tries to help folks anticipate and deal with those particular problems. And the law does that in a couple of ways, right? One, it can impose restrictions on people's use with an eye toward conserving or sustaining a supply over time into the future or for a particular period of time. The other way that the law sort of operates is one that's kind of overlooked, but to the extent the legislature provides funding for places like the Department of Natural Resources or even the university, it creates the information upon which those decisions can be made. So our spending decisions are really legal decisions that are handed down by the legislative branch that allow us to create information and then act upon that information. Other things that the law helps do is create, for example, reservoir systems and whatnot. So in the Republican Basin, most of those reservoirs were built for not only irrigation but also flood control because of a very significant flood event that occurred in the 1930s. Those reservoirs basically hold back floodwaters and then release it over time so that you don't have huge flows that destroy, tens of thousands of acres of farmland or land that has houses on it or whatever. So I think, Nebraska has a lot to offer in terms of not only our water resources, but also the variety of different things that you can see across the state in terms of both its institutions, its laws, integrated management, crop production methods, irrigation methods, and those sorts of things, which is important, I think, to, growing more food with less water, if you want to put it that way, or helping other countries develop their resource base and further industrialize their agriculture, or at least scale it up in terms of the production levels that they're able to achieve.